Hey, what's going on? David Avalon here with Robert Drysdale for another edition of the Breaking the Guard podcast. Robert, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I had a great day today, and can't complain.
Nice.
Yeah.
My days have been starting off kind of rocky.
Well, you just moved too, so that's gotta be a pain in the butt.
Yeah, no, like I had posted the other day with my girlfriend. She had bought this protective case for her tablet. She had one of those Microsoft Go's, and she has the case already, but she got like the screen covers so they don't scratch. And while she was trying to put that on, she had to take off the case, so it's just a regular tablet. And as she's putting the thing slips, falls on the floor, cracks.
Not fun.
No, and I think the irony is that she was trying to protect it more.
Yeah,
and destroyed it in the process.
Yeah,
she just stormed off.
you like insured? Like, sometimes you get like the kind of like protection.
She was like a month after.
Oh no!
Because she bought it like on October last year, and then. Boom.
You gotta be so careful. I catch my kids running around with their iPads. For some reason, they want to take the case out of the case. I don't understand why they do that. Like, I bought you a case for a reason, but they pull it out of the case. And they're running around with it. I'm like, if you break that iPad, I'm not going to get you into it. Don't worry, Daddy. It won't break if I drop it. I've dropped it plenty of times. I'm just like looking down, like, but yeah, it's just price you pay for awesome technology, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's not that durable.
Most definitely. But in today's starting topic, I wanted to bring up, there's a lot more sport crossovers happening these days. We've seen like in the UFC with Conor, you have boxers crossing over, and particularly Conor crossing over into boxing.
Yes.
We've seen now, Nick Rodriguez crossover
To wrestling.
Well,
he comes from wrestling.
He comes from wrestling, so it's not as much. But now you got Gordon doing a wrestling crossover with Bo Nichols.
Yes.
For the rest, but now it's a grappling match, but I think there's no leg locks, and there's they modify it a little bit.
I think it's interesting. I like what they're doing is that they're kind of trying to change things up a little, because we've had the same for so long, and it does get a little monotonous because you have the same. A lot of times, if you're familiar with the rule set and you're familiar with the players, if you're an experienced grappler, you already know what's going to happen. Like, I have a good idea what's going to happen. Like, I call this stuff. You're right. If you know grappling, you know that if you have Luke Rockhold and Nick Rodriguez on one side, you know it's going to be a stand-up match.
Yeah.
It's probably going to go decision.
That's another one that happened.
So that you get this. But I think it's interesting that I've always liked when MMA guys make the crossover to grappling. Although I think that they do much better when they cross over to grappling than when grapplers cross over MMA without that experience.
Yeah.
Right. Or strikers for that matter. Right. Because MMA guys, they're kind of like that, well versed in every area. They're outstanding athletes, and they're well versed in, at least fundamentally, at least in everything. Right. So, it's easier for a McGregor to go boxing than it is for a Floyd Mayweather to go MMA.
Yeah, 100%.
And this is why I'm such a fan of MMA, because MMA is the art that really brings together, like the best of all worlds. And one thing that I think a lot of people miss out on is that when you specialize in something, whether it's jiu-jitsu, wrestling, the more you specialize, the harder it gets to progress, because you're less and less challenged. And at some point, you're reaching the limitations of what your body can do, and maybe even what your mind can do.
Yeah.
Right? So you start slowing. So your progress as a white belt is very fast, blue belt fast, purple belt, brown, black. And black is the one you progress the least, because I think you're like making shorter progress.
Yeah.
Whereas an MMA fighter, he's got so many areas to work on. He grows in all those areas very fast. Right, even though he's specialized, he probably not most of the time not specialized in any of them. But I think that explains why like Luke Rockhold can hang with any high level grappler, but if you put that high level grappler in a cage with Luke Rockhold, you get demolished.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, MMA just has so many things to work on that. I was listening to an interview with I think it was Joe Rogan was interviewing Farhad Sahabi. And I think Joe asked him, how long do you like your fighters to have a break, and in his words, fuck off after a fight? He's like, no more than 2 weeks. It's because there's so much technique that they have to learn that if you took a month off, there was so many techniques that you've lost the opportunity to learn in those 2 weeks, in that month or in the 6 weeks or whatnot. So he's like, I want my guys always learning.
It's a learning art. It's not just running.
That's what he said. Especially in MMA, it's like one position can win you the whole fight. Yeah. It was a very good point. Like the guys I feel do best are always in shape. They're always training. You know, like you have to learn how to peak, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, like as far as like being at the gym, you don't just disappear and then fight camp comes up. Now I put my 6, 8, 10 weeks, whatever it is. You know.
That's always been my biggest peeve training MMA fighters, is that they take 2 months off, they go to Hawaii, and it's like they come back when they have another fight, and all they do is get in shape, which they'll get in shape in 6 weeks or whatever, right? You get in shape. These guys are very disciplined. They'll cut the weight. They walk. They come back at 30 pounds heavier, completely out of shape. But you give them 6 weeks and they'll be fine. But the problem is they never learn anything.
Yeah.
So the 6 weeks you're preparing, you're not really improving technically. I think that I truly believe that for you to learn, it's almost like you have to be more in a more relaxed environment where you're not trying to win. It's not that you're not trying to win, but I guess you're more experimenting more. Like, for example, I'll try that Kimura. I'll try that footlock. I'll try that guillotine I never go for, right? And you're a more relaxed environment, that's when you're actually experimenting, and then you learn more. Whereas if you're that, let's prepare for this opponent and let's overtrain you right now, it's very hard for you to learn. I like, my full philosophy is, in terms of preparation, is, I think you're probably going to agree with me, we're going to go learn until we get close to a fight camp. We got to fight. You got 6, 8 weeks out. Now we focus, we switch gears, and we're going to go, let's hone in on, our opponent's skill set and being in peak shape, right? And then it's not about learning, because you're not going to learn anything 3 weeks before a fight. I mean, sometimes you do, but generally speaking, you don't. And it's something that MMA fighters don't seem to grasp a lot of times. It's hard to get that through their heads. Like, they don't think they have to. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, maybe because you're less injured after a tournament, that could explain it, but you're back at the gym next week. Like, not even a week. 2 weeks off to me sounds crazy, if you ask me. Like, I understand where Firas is coming from, because I know how these guys are. 2 weeks is like, come on, they went 3 months off. Like, 2 weeks to me is like, hey man, you get a week max. And that's if you're injured, you may need longer, but I mean, the way I look at it, you should be back at the gym on Monday.
As soon as you can be, yeah.
I mean, if you're not injured, I don't see why not.
We always tell all of our fighters, like, we come back on, like, they fight on Friday, see you on Monday. Yeah. And then, like, we start working again. But as you said, it's true, because anybody who's, like, if you're the common student, you might not know how a fight camp works, right? But, like, generally, it's, like, exactly what you said, right? Yeah. We identify a strategy, and we look at the opponents, and we formulate the strategy. Like, okay, he has a weak ground game. We got to work on taking him down. This is plan A, contingency, and whatnot. So you're just working on perfecting those game plans. And like you said, then developing the stamina and weight cutting is probably a big factor in there as well. So there isn't a lot of room to learn. You're perfecting a game plan, Yeah. So, there's no real skill development, and especially if, like you said, like if they're slacking big time, and they take 2 months off and they're eating, then a big part of their camp is just dieting and cutting, which is a huge distraction, because now, like, and I've done that, I'm sure you have as well, and you can't train well when you're cutting, because you have to be calorie deprived if you're trying to diet weight off, you know what I mean? Because not only, it's one thing if you're cutting water weight, but there's a lot of guys who get overweight or out of shape, and they have to get back in shape. Yeah. So you're going to have to create a calorie deficit. And when you're training 2 times a day or 3 times a day or putting 4 hours in hard, that calorie deficit is going to kick your ass. Yeah. And I remember I would train and I would get my ass kicked by people. I'm like, I just have to tell myself, like, this is because you're weak right now. Yeah, and when the fight comes in, you're going to be really good. But right now, don't judge this performance.
It does fuck you up, though.
But it does mess you up, right? And, like, from a performance standpoint, you're not training as hard as you could be, because you're limited by the amount of energy that you have. Right. Whereas if you were disciplined and always in shape, you don't have to be fight shape, but always in good shape, then there isn't like a drastic weight cut or diet plan that you have to do. You say, okay, I just got to, tone up a little bit or just get my cardio a little better. And that allows you to train better for competition without feeling weak and getting beat up all over the place.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And the other thing, too, is I feel that there's something about learning that requires, I'm speaking from my own experience. Yeah. I think everyone's different. I think we all learn differently. I don't think we're all like learning the exact same way. And I feel that I've made most progress in my learning when I was happy, when things in my personal life were going well. Like I had no distractions. I was very focused, and I was dreaming about jiu-jitsu all day. I remember this. Like, sometimes I was so excited about jiu-jitsu, about learning a new mover. I'd be thinking about it till 2 a.m. And I'm doing the move in my head over and over and over till 2 a.m. Like, it's like, not all the time, but like I'd be driving. I mean, I got severe ADD. If you know me, you know this. So I'm like driving, like I'm distracted. Sometimes I miss my exit because I'm thinking, oh, that sweep, and then top, and I'm in my head I'm fighting, right?
Yeah.
And I really believe that I was learning that way because I was creating. We discussed it with Kit Dale a while ago, that emotional attachment to the movie. And if you think about it over and over, and you dream about it, and it's so important to you, you actually end up absorbing and truly believing in that movie. When the time comes, you really want it to work, right? So I think that these things have to be in place. And when you're dieting, like you were describing, anyone who's ever cut weight knows this, you're miserable.
Yeah.
You're unhappy. You get hangry. Like, I'm rude to people. You go caveman on people. Like, you don't want to, it's hard to describe the feelings. It's a horrible, horrible state of mind. And it's hard to be happy and be dreaming about learning, dreaming about jiu-jitsu, dreaming about moves when you can't stop thinking about food, and you turn the TV on and get like a hamburger commercial on, and that's all it really occupies your time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I remember when there's like, this is fascinating to me. So like, when I was like a purple belt, I was really into the competition scene in Brazil. And I had heard that for you to perform, you should not have sex, you should not masturbate,
Yeah.
and then you would just conserve all that energy. You would raise your testosterone levels, right? And then, you perform better. So I would literally like go like a week, 2 weeks with no masturbation, no sex, and then I remember one time I did a month at a tournament. Right, I did a month, like no month, like I kid you not, it was brutal, but it was worse. I'll tell you why. Because I couldn't stop thinking about sex. I was thinking more about sex than I was about jiu-jitsu, because my mind was just like, I'm surprised I didn't get like a wet dream or anything. But then I won the tournament. It was like a big tournament. I can't remember which one it was, but the second time I did that, I did a whole month. The night before, right, it was the World Championship purple belt. I won purple belt 2001. The night before, I had sex with my girlfriend. I couldn't resist. We sleep in the same bed. It happened, right? And I still won. So I was like, that's bullshit. And then like a little while later, I saw a special. I think it was like Science, Discovery Channel, one of them, Science of Fighting. And they actually found that your testosterone actually raises after sex. So sex is actually going to improve your performance.
Correct.
And after I saw that, I'm like, okay. That's stupid.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have those things like, oh, no sex for 2 weeks, it takes away your legs. I'm like, dude, what exactly are you doing?
What are you doing?
Sex?
That's some intense sex.
I know, like maybe when you're young, you're gonna do some crazy stuff, headstands, you're picking up people.
Trying to impress the girl. Yeah,
right. But like,
creative.
if you're with someone you've been with a while, it's pretty simple. Right? I don't get on sex. I'm like, I'm cramping. It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
We're not running marathons here, right?
No.
I always thought that's such a weird thing to say, like, and
weak legs, like, I think about that, because like, what is it that you're doing? Because like, you'd be tired after sex, but not like exhausted tired. It's nothing like training, It's like, your heart rate goes up a little bit. You might break in a sweat, whatever.
Dude,
I could see your legs getting tired depending on the position, but like, it's nothing like training, not even close. Like,
I've worn the Fitbit during sex.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
And
this guy
for science, and it doesn't really,
everything for science.
It doesn't really move up that much. Like you get like 100 at most, like,
which is like a jog.
It's like walking. You know what I mean? Like
walking fast,
120 would be like jogging, and like obviously 150 up would be running. You don't really go that much.
That's a good exercise. See if you can raise your heartbeat to 140, 150 having sex. I'd be. Actually,
you could do it.
You could probably do it. You try.
You gotta be standing up and lifting and stuff like that. But like, normally you're not doing that stuff. And if you need to get one out, you just do missionary. It's exhausts you.
Yeah.
And like you said, the other thing is true. Actually, the longer you go without having sex, your testosterone level starts to drop.
Yeah.
Right. So like, actually, when you go a month without it, your testosterone level is going to be lower than when you started. Now, the other thing is like, if you're having sex like every day or like twice a day or something like that, then your testosterone levels will drop.
Because it's too much.
It's too much, right? Yeah. So they were saying, I think it was like once every 3 days or something like that. That would be like
a steady pace.
That would be like ideal, because you want to. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I might be screwing this all up. But from my understanding, like a couple of times a week is going to be good for you as far as like keeping your testosterone levels high.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because it's making your body, even though I think the difference is probably marginal, I think it does raise your testosterone a little bit, but not like, oh my God, I'm going to win a tournament because of this. But every little bit counts, right? That's how I look at it. But like, to me, the most distracting thing, this is why this was such a horrible idea, testosterone levels aside, I'm just talking about your mindset.
Yes.
I remember, like, I'm like 18, 19, right? Testosterone's through the roof. All you think about is sex when you're 18, right? That's all that's going through your head. and I'm trying to focus on a tournament, and I haven't masturbated, had sex in 20, 30 days now. I can't stop thinking about it. It's all that's on my mind. It's actually so much worse. So if you got that in your head, get it out of your head right now. Don't even. I mean, maybe not have like a sexathon in the morning.
Yeah.
Before the con.
I think exactly. No marathons. Just
pace yourself.
Exactly. Right. And I think, like you said, you don't want to be like starving yourself out. That especially since it's actually could help you.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, just for your mindset, you want to not have that. It's like if people who've cut weight or dieted hard, when you're actually hungry when you dream about food every time you go to sleep.
Yes.
Because I know you were just talking about it, but I remember me as well. Like, I have just dreams about food all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's messed up.
It's your equivalent of your wet dream. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Your brain's like, yo, eat something, man. Come on.
And I know I don't like fast food in general. Like, if I eat McDonald's or Wendy's, it's because there's absolutely nothing else for me to eat, and I'm starving. And I think that I would rather eat junk food than not eat. I think not eating is unhealthier than eating junk food. But that's just me. Some people probably disagree.
I would agree with you. I think even though like I have done that before, because I went like once like a 10-year stretch without eating fast food. Yeah. And I would say, you know what, I'm not going to eat anything. Like people would stop at Wendy's or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll just starve. I'm fine. Yeah. And like in retrospect, like it's just calories. You know what I mean? And it's not
calories in, calories out.
Yeah, maybe it's garbage food, but it's better than zero.
It's better than no calories. I agree. And with that mindset, like I don't like fast food. I just don't like the taste of it. It doesn't taste fresh to me.
I'm right there with you. I'm a food snob, so like.
Yeah, I exactly. I like good food, not necessarily healthy, but I like has to taste good, right? So, I remember, when I'm watching TV and the Wendy's commercial comes on, and it looks like the most delicious thing in the world because I'm like severely fat deprived. I don't get shredded. I never got shredded, even weigh-ins. I got like baby abs at best,
I'm right.
But like my body's still fat depleted, So it actually, fat is a good thing. We talked about this before, but like it's a survival mechanism. There's a reason why bacon smells good and broccoli doesn't. Bacon will get you alive. Will keep you alive. Like broccoli, get some enzymes, a little calories. It's mostly water.
Yeah.
So from a survival perspective, it makes a lot more sense for your body to crave bacon and sugar than broccoli and kale. Even though like health nuts will argue with this all day. It's like this world we live in is a very artificial world where you can go to Whole Foods and buy nuts from Africa, Brazil, or Indonesia, and everything's available, and no one's calorie deprived because even poorer people are fat these days. Whereas 100,000 years ago, like I think that obesity was non-existing. That would be my guess. I wouldn't know for sure, but like I think that obesity would be. I think everyone was pretty.
Well, it was a sign of privilege, like
It still is in a lot of places.
In other countries, if you're fat, it's like, man, this guy's rich because he can afford to eat all this food.
In the northeast of Brazil, it's a very poor region of Brazil. If you've lived in Brazil, if you traveled to Brazil, you've probably seen it. Most of Brazilian wealth is in the south, and the north is pretty poor. But in the northeast, to have fat children is a symbol of status. And one of my best friend in Brazil, he was born in the northeast. They migrated when he was like a child. And his mother, till this day, like she's constantly like force feeding kids. Like in her head, like you got to be fat. Like in her head, till this day, fat kids are the most beautiful thing in the world because she grew up in poverty. Yeah. So to her, like fat is it's a symbol of wealth.
Yeah.
And health, which is crazy. She'd probably love it in the U.S. I think the U.S. got beat as fattest country in the world a while ago. I don't know if you regained that title or not, but Mexico outdid us.
Really?
They love tortillas, man. Have you gone to Mexico? They tortillas everywhere, man. They're not unhealthy by itself in a normal quantity, but they eat so much of them. I think that, but Mexico actually, was the fattest country in the world. We were second, but I think it's close. I think it's a tight race.
We'll win it back this year.
Got to be number one at everything, even the bad stuff. But yeah, man, it's I'm not I'm like you, Dave. I'm not obsessed with, my diet and food, but generally terms, like I try to be, try not to be a slob,
Yeah. No, for me, though, the reason I don't eat fast food, one, health reasons, but more really because I don't like the taste of it, right? It's like the first time I had a prime steak, it was like a game-changing moment for me because now it's like, well, I can never eat selector choice eat again. The taste is so much better, whether the marbling of the meat and all, it just makes a big difference. So like, the lot of stuff I've tried, it's like I taste something like, okay, I can't go backwards now. Now I have to eat this or better.
and I become more self-aware as you get older too. You know, like
Yeah.
I give myself the freedom to eat in and out every now and then, but it's not. You get older and like your metabolism changes. Like Felipe Andrew, he's living with me, and I've never seen a human eat like he does. It's out of this world, like mountains of food. Like only two of them. Like, dude, he's not huge, right? He's probably walking around 210, but he eats like twice as much as I do, but he's 25, 24, 25.
Yeah,
so
his metabolism is rolling. Yeah.
And I remember eating like that when I was his age. Maybe not that much. He's like a whole new level. But, I eat way less than I used to. And I'm still putting on weight, right? Which is crazy. But like, watching some of these kids eat, it's almost like entertaining. Like, holy shit, man, where's that all going? And they're lean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But like, I think it's really, it's genetics, a number of factors too. But I think the metabolism changes dramatically. And I can feel it. Like you just don't run through calories as quickly as you did when you're in your 20s.
Yeah, it's also the training output. Like those guys are, they're training
2 to
a
3
lot.
times a day, yeah.
I think like Michael Phelps. They were saying he eats like 10,000 calories a day, which is a ridiculous amount of food.
Reminds me of something disgusting. Someone showed me this video on YouTube. There's this 15-year-old kid. There's the Michael Phelps challenge. Yeah, if you search it, you're not going to waste. It's great. He actually gets this 15-year-old kid. He's going to eat like something like 10,000 calories, 12,000 calories, whatever that Michael Phelps eats a day. But he does it in 1 hour.
Oh, God, that's not a good move.
And he's skinny and he's lean. Reminds me of that guy that eats hot dog really quick, like Kobayashi.
Kobayashi, yeah,
he's like
yeah.
like it's insane, right? He's shredded. But this kid even reminds me of him, and he eats something like that, whatever it is, like 10,000 calories. And it's a ridiculous amount of food. We're talking pancakes, energy drinks, pizza, pasta. It's the kind of, I think it would take me like 4 days to eat that much food, right? It's insane.
For me, it would literally be 4 days because I'm eating around between 2,500 and 3,000 calories a day, So
you count, huh?
Yeah.
Oh shit, that sounds like a lot of work, man.
No, man. You remember we did the episode? We
were
on the phone.
I know. But you gotta remember to type. Like I just eat as I go. Like sometimes I'm just like snacking while I'm driving.
I have a scale in my house. I weigh everything I eat. Yeah, I'm pretty disciplined with that.
If you know, you don't know if you know Dave. You know how like organized and how disciplined he is. Like he's very, very methodical about everything. It's impressive because I don't have that kind of personality. But like there's a lot of value to it. Keeping track. You know what I wish I had done? I wish I had kept a diary over my training. Like the thing, like how I think we talked a little bit about this, but like how I feel that day and what I ate that week before. But not just for like your how you feel physically. But, like I had a lot of success with this move today. And it's just a way of keeping, sometimes like, I don't know if this ever happened to you. You're working on a move and we're going really, really well and you're killing people with it. And all of a sudden, boom, it just vanishes from your game. Yep. And you don't do it for like 2-3 years and then it comes back all of a sudden. I'm like, why on earth did I stop doing this move? I was killing people with it.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy how your game goes. It's very cyclical. I'm not even sure why that is. I suspect maybe your training partners adapt to it, and then you have to. Maybe that stops working for a while, and then it comes back. But I've always been that way.
Yeah, no, I've had that too, and it's a mix of what you said. Like one of them, like at my gym, I used to do a lot of heel hooks when I was competing a lot. Yeah. But then everybody got really good defending them at my gym, so it wasn't working as well. So then I started doing something else, and then you kind of stop using it, even though like if you compete outside, it's gonna work really well. Like at ADCC, most of my finishes were heel hooks, Then, but at my gym, I barely get people with heel hooks back in the day.
But the problem with like getting frustrated, right? In quotation marks, frustrated with your training partners and not getting something. Because it may lead you to believe that you're not doing it well and that it wouldn't work in a competition. That might be the weapon that you're missing, right?
Yeah.
To beat that certain opponent. Which is something I'm always, as a coach, I talk about this every day. It's funny because when you're a coach, you repeat something so much because they're important themes to you. And your students roll your eyes. But whenever I say that same thing when I teach a private or a seminar, you're like, it's like this great. Students think you're great revelation that your students think you for granted a lot of times. But if I repeat it, it's because it's very important. But I always talk about developing new weapons, not be a one-trick pony, and learn how to shut off your autopilot. Because everyone talks about autopilot as the greatest thing ever, and it is your best friend, but it's also your biggest enemy. Because autopilot is what teaches you to do what you do all the time automatically, and sometimes that's the wrong way to go. Depend on your opponent, depend on the circumstances. Good competitor shuts off autopilot and goes in a different direction, right? Like I'm able to change my strategy. But if you're a one-trick pony and you always do the same things over and over, you struggle with that because that's all you do.
Yeah.
So I always like to have, like, some people are like, oh, I don't pass on my knees. I'm like, oh, there might be a time for it. Oh, I don't like hip throws, or I don't like to wrestle, or I don't like this, I don't like that. I'm like, man, there will be a time that you will need that. I'll give you an example. I hated judo and wrestling coming up. It's funny because, like, I'm known as a guard critic today, but if you saw me coming up from white to brown, that's all I did. I did not stand up. I didn't know how to pass up to black belt, right? Like, I'd be like, I was one of those guys. I was so uncomfortable on top. I'd rather throw myself on bottom and get scored 2 points on because I knew I could sweep if I wanted to, right? I was that guy. But it was, it was not until, because in my head I'm going, no one's ever going to pass my guard. My guard's going to be so good, Dave, no one's ever going to pass it. I'm just going to put 100% of my investment in that until I met a guy that could walk through my guard. And now what do? Because he has my number. He's figured me out, right? And I wish I had the judo skills or the wrestling skills to take him down because I know he had no guard, right? So, students tend to be very stubborn. And I find that it's always like the blue belts and purple belts for some reason. It's like seem like the not beginners, but like the intermediate level, and they're the ones that have like their game, and I hate when I hear that, like my game. It's almost like this is what I do. Everything else is outside of my game. I don't want to learn it, and I have to really almost like argue with people, convince them, like, man, don't be limited like that. Don't look at it that way.
Yeah, I think it's because when you're at that blue purple level, you think you know something.
Very arrogant.
Because you probably are having success with that particular move or your game. And then, like you're saying, you're like, okay, I just want to get as many taps or wins as I can. So I'm going to keep playing this game. But as you said, there's diminishing returns. And especially when you're starting off, and in blue, you're relatively starting off. Like, if you're going to curb your growth in this one point when there's a branch here that's completely unexplored, you can learn a lot here fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think we're calling it autopilot is destructive to learning, right? I think it has its place, particularly in competition or whatnot, where you want to execute quickly. But when you're training, your goal is to learn as much as you can. So, yeah, you got to toss the ego aside and allow yourself to take some L's in training for the long-term win, Like I said, when I would work on things, I would pick objectives. I would say, okay, I want to score, 5 guillotines today. Remember, you talked about this before. I'd be the same way. Like, I want to get this submission working today, and I'm just going to go for that. I'm going to force it. So it's not natural. I'm just trying to make it happen. But it's giving me more exposure to that position so I can learn faster.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for me, that's what always worked. Like, I would force myself into positions. Or like I would play half guard when my half guard was garbage. I'm just gonna force half guard every time. Start from bottom, pull it, and make myself work it. But like I, at least when I was training in my gym, I didn't care about like, oh, the student passed my guard, or this guy, my rival, my brother beat me. Like, that's fine. I'm training. I'm here to learn. When we go out to compete, now it's different.
It's very hard to do. Because I would tell myself that. I teach my students exactly what you said in those words. But I had a very hard time doing it myself because I tell them, today I'm going to go to the gym and I'm just going to put myself in a bad spot, right? And I was, but of course I'm competitive. Like, I want to win. So the second things go south for me, like I immediately go back to my A game. And it's so hard to discipline yourself into just being the guy who's accepting to lose. I went through a phase. It lasted about less than a week. I wouldn't call it a phase, but like, I was so angry at myself because I couldn't lose, and I had to just go back to my A game all the time, trying to beat people, even though I'm preaching the opposite, right? But I had a really hard time disciplining myself doing that. So what I would do is, like, I did this, like I said, lasted less than a week, but I would, like, I'm gonna get tapped today. I have to get tapped today. So if I'm rolling with someone, I would, like, let them get a Kimura or a rear naked choke, and I try to get out, and then, like, maybe half the times I get out, the other time, but like, I was like, my blue belts were tapping me, but I was putting myself in all these spots. It was almost like a way of like humbling myself. Like, it's okay if you tap, Rob.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay if you lose. But it's like this internal battle I had where, like, I just didn't want to lose. But the smarter part of me was trying to discipline me. Like, Rob, it's okay if you lose, right? And it didn't last very long. But like, I think there's one occasion I trained with this blue belt. He tapped me like 6 times in 10 rounds. I think he was confused. I'm like, is he letting me? Like, I remember the look on his face was like, what's going on, Rob? Like, but it was just my way of like trying to break that habit of not wanting to lose in practice. But you're right. Like, practice is for practice. It's for learning. It's not for winning. As long as you can understand that difference. Something you're not trying to win when you're trying to move. You go, let's say, some people only attack the right foot, right? And they never foot lock the left foot for whatever reason, right? You attack the left one, you're trying to get it. You're not letting your opponent get out. But because you're going on your bad side, chances are you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And when you fail, you learn what we call a negative lesson.
Right.
You learn how not to do it. That lesson is important. Learning how not to do something is just as important as learning how to do it.
Yep.
And I think that's my peeve with people that want the shortcuts, because they only want to learn the way how to do it. And it's like, man, the true lessons, like for you to truly understand something, you have to understand all these other options that don't work, because that's the difference between truly knowing something and memorizing something, Dave. Because a person will memorize. Let's say I watch your DVD set and I memorize how you do things. Let's say I can explain it better than you. It doesn't mean I know it better than you, even though the white belt may perceive it that way. But someone who has memorized a move, you can corner them just like this. You ask them 2 or 3 questions that go outside of what's going on there, and they either don't know or they're going to bullshit you. They're going to come up with some bullshit answer. Whereas, like, you're an expert Kimura. I know I couldn't corner you. Like, no matter what I say, you have an answer to this position and what would happen if someone did this or that. And you have been through all those situations, so you know why it doesn't work. And you have a good reason why. Or versus someone who's memorized a move, they're going to bullshit.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, they don't have an answer because they've never been in the situation.
They start looking up and to the right, right? I think.
Yes. I've heard right and I've heard left. I'm not sure what it is, but people do. Yeah, but people do that when they laugh. If you pay attention, body language gives
huge. Yeah.
people away. I'm almost like, sometimes I try to train myself to only pay attention to people's body language, and almost like, but it's hard to focus on both because the words kind of hypnotize you. You start listening, but body language gives people away a lot.
For sure. No, but you are right. Those negative lessons, or it's like Thomas Edison, he didn't fail 10,000 times. He learned 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb, right?
That's exactly that.
So I feel that's one of the benefits my brother and I had when we came up. Since we didn't have an instructor for most of our career, we had to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, a lot of times. And then we learned, like you said, lots of negative lessons. Like, okay, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, but we know why all these things don't work. And it's also made us a little bit more open-minded because we didn't have someone telling us, okay, this is how this works, and this is why you're going to do it like this. Like, no, like we got to explore a lot. Like, we did all sorts of weird stuff. One of the things that you had mentioned, like I let go of, was doing neck cranks. I used to do neck cranks all the time from all sorts of positions. But I found, like, with training partners, most people don't like tapping to neck cranks because they think it's like a pain move. And then what ends up happening is
which one did you use? Because I never got into them. I cross-faced people for a minute. I was crossing people all the time, but
neck cranks, I would do them all sorts. Like the front, just from mount, from the front here, from the bottom guard, I could do it. Sit-outs, a lot of neck cranks, and a lot of them are not necessarily. They can start as a neck crank, but then they become we call it like a diaphragm choke.
Yeah.
A diaphragm compression.
That's the one from the Kasagatami, the judo head control.
Yeah, exactly, like that.
Brutal. That looks like a bullshit move, but if you've been under a heavyweight doing that to you,
it's
and they can be consistent with the pressure, because one thing if they press you for like 2-3 seconds, you can, you're practically holding your breath for 3 seconds. But if they can keep it that 10-15 seconds, there's no way you tap. You can't breathe.
Yeah, you can't breathe. It's awful. I know. And there's one that I like to do, the Basruden one. That one, I don't know if you've seen that one. I forgot what someone else calls it, but I learned it from Basruden. Yeah. From Grappling magazine. He showed it. I remember I saw it. I'm like, this looks like BS. But I'm like, man, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I remember the first guy I got to do it to was my brother. And essentially you're from a kasekatame.
Yeah.
And then you loop around his neck, grab your own thigh, and then you grab his other leg, loop your own thigh, and then pinch your knees together. And I remember I put him in there for like 20 seconds, and he didn't tap. And I'm like, damn, I guess it didn't work. And then I let go of it, and then we finished the round, and my brother's like, oh, I made a big mistake. I'm ruined. Like the crank just destroyed me.
You just didn't tap out of pride.
And then he didn't train for like 3 or 4 days. His ribs were just totally destroyed.
I know what you're talking about. I have done it to people, and I've had it done to me. It actually does work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not a high percentage move in the sense where like a rear naked choke is a high percentage submission, right? There's a hierarchy, I believe, when it comes to effectiveness of submissions, right? To me, like rear naked choke is king. Yeah. Always will be. I don't think that's ever gonna. And it's old school. Remember the old school conversation? It's not as old as it gets. And then it goes like armbar, guillotine, whatever, like down the ranks. And that one would not rank top 10. But again, like there's a right, even like the craziest stuff. There's a place for crazy stuff.
Yeah.
When my favorite example, Anthony Pettis knocked out Ben Henderson, that spinning kick off the cage.
Yeah.
Once again, the line between genius and stupid is very thin. You know, had he landed on his head and knocked himself out, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
He knocked him out, he's a genius.
Yeah.
But like that's truly how things are, man. Like I think that you try something absolutely crazy, and then if it works, you're brilliant. And if it doesn't, what an idiot for even trying, right?
Yeah, it's high risk, high reward. It's one of those things. But sometimes people don't expect those high risk moves, and they get caught.
But you should have that. Like when I show low percentage moves, sometimes I show them at gym. It's not even big. They're not even part of our curriculum. Every now and then, out of curiosity, I'll show my students, and I explain, like, look, this is not a high percentage move. But if you're in a situation where you're down by 20 points, you got 30 seconds left, maybe go for that Ezekiel from inside the closed guard.
Yeah, it's a Hail Mary.
Yeah, try that move that you saw on Fight Magazine, 20 years ago that looked like a bullshit move. Try that move from the Gene LaBelle Encyclopedia of Submissions. Have you ever seen that book?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's great. Like it's got it's something. I think the title of the book is like 1,001 submissions or something like that. And of course, like 80% of them are just okay. That would never work. But I say that with caution because there might be a time where that would work. I'm sure it's worked at some point, But, I don't think that would be part of a curriculum. I wouldn't be teaching that in class every week. Once in every now and then, out of curiosity, you show it and like, hey, you never know.
What's your most ridiculous submission that you have?
That I use?
Yeah.
I know I got a few. I'm just trying to think of one now. That, it looks like absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, I got two. They're very similar. One of them is I locked the body triangle on. My legs are a little bit bigger these days, so when they were thinner,
it was easy.
Yes, it was. I'm not that much. People probably think if you can't see me that I'm fat. I'm not fat. I'm just bigger.
Yeah.
A little fat. When you lock the body triangle on, what I do is, most people lock around the abdomen, right?
Yep.
What I do is I grab my shin and I move myself up as just like I'm adjusting a triangle. I pull that shin over the rib cage, and then I lock that triangle not on my foot but on my ankle. So the top of my toe is touching the outside of my knee.
Okay.
So it's like an ankle deep triangle, and then I squeeze my knees together. David, I've never had someone not tap there. Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, I've had people. I don't like those at all.
Yeah, because what happens is your abdomen is all muscle and guts, right? Whereas your rib cage is actually protecting your organs. Yeah. And the rib cage are not that strong.
No.
So when you apply pressure to your rib cage, you're actually applying pressure to the organs, and it sends your body into a panic. Right, and it's believe it or not, it's legal. IBJJF, people don't know this, but it's completely legal because there's nothing in the rules that says anything about that. Especially because the ref, it just looks like a body triangle. You tap on the body triangle, you're a bitch.
Yeah.
They're not always seeing the amount of pain that move.
I've popped like 6 or 7 ribs, so I would hate you if you did that to me.
No, it's brutal, man. Like I don't think I could, Dave. But I used to actually there was a minute there in MMA I was getting so frustrated, not able to finish people because of the gloves, and getting a rear naked choke with gloves is very difficult.
Yeah.
And the arm bar, I got it a lot, but it was one of those things. The arm bar was plan C. My plan B became the body triangle on the back, and I was killing people with it, man.
Oh yeah, particularly with the back.
Tapping people all the time with that body triangle on the back. I always lock it over the ribcage.
If you got a cup on too, and you got the cup grinding into the lower back, that thing is not fun.
I got another bullshit submission that I do. I show people and they don't think it's real. Like, that doesn't work. And then I do it. Holy fuck, it works. But I'm in closed guard, right? And I go flower sweeps. I go really deep with my right arm.
Okay.
But instead of flower sweeping you, right? What I do is I put the knee that I'm pulling myself into on the ground. So if I go in with my right arm flower sweep, my right knee goes on the ground. Okay. That puts me sideways.
Yep.
Right? And then I lock the triangle, the same triangle that I do on the back, but on the side of the rib cage. Right? And then I lock the triangle and I squeeze. It's even worse than the one on the back because it applies all the pressure sideways to only one rib. And I've caught a few people with that. But when you teach it, it sounds like bullshit.
I believe it. I've had people try to do those body triangles on me, and I work immediately to get it off because I know that's bad news. I have the reason I have one BS move that I've hit maybe twice ever.
Yeah.
But if I got hit with this, I'd probably quit.
Yeah.
Which is behind the arm, facing away guillotine. Okay, behind the back.
Behind the back.
So you would be that way. I would grab you like this and finish you here.
So no, I'm on your back and you.
Yeah. So pretty much the way it works, I would sprawl you out, so you're on your force.
Yeah.
And then I would turn away from you and whack. lock my hands behind my back. So your neck is in this little pocket right here.
Okay. And then you finish.
And then you just stretch your hips out. Boom.
Man, I never even seen. Not even in Jean LaBelle's encyclopedia did I see that.
I forgot. I know I didn't come up with that. I saw it somewhere.
Yeah.
And I used to do a prank with people. Like I go, oh, I had this great move I'm going to show you. Check this out.
Yeah.
And I would put my hand on their shoulder and walk them to the mat. And right when we get on the mats, and just drop my butt and be like, oh.
Yeah. It's funny. Again, I never see, but like I can see it working in some circumstances. Hafi does one that just reminded me of something.
Yeah.
He does one from, imagine you're like in side control, and then you face the legs and you wrap the shoulder.
Yep.
Hafi has one where he reaches around behind his back with both his arms and like does a north-south from there. It's the weirdest thing. I cannot do it. He does it though. Like not all the time. It's not high percentage, but I've seen people him tap it with me. He's done it to me. I'm not trying to escape or anything, but I feel the pressure. Like, man, I can see this working. And he actually connects his hands behind his back. It's the weirdest thing. I just reminded of an absolute bullshit move. And the guy did it to me. We're not fighting.
Yeah.
And I almost like screamed in pain. It was brutally painful. Imagine deep half guard. This is a purple belt from Brazil. And he's like, look at this submission. You can't go deep half. Like let him get to deep half guard. I'm like, why? Because he'll do this. So deep half guard and the leg that he's hugging. So he's on his back, right? You have your leg across and ankle trapped in half guard and your leg across his body, right?
Yep.
He does a rear naked choke on the top of your leg, with the blade of the rear naked choke in the middle of your thigh.
Interesting.
And then he squeezes. Dave, it hurt like it was brutal, man. It sounds like bullshit. Like you're not tapped from that, man. It felt like my femur was gonna break. The guy was strong. He's a strong guy, short arms, kind of stocky. But when he did it, it felt like he was gonna break my femur. I had to tap. I mean, we're not going live.
Yeah,
but apparently he does that to a lot of people. And
interesting.
It's not even in the rule book. It doesn't even exist in the list of submissions, But yeah, so you got to be a little, sometimes you got to keep the door open for the possibility of weird stuff that in theory shouldn't work.
For sure. Yeah.
If it works, you can't argue with success.
Exactly. You never know when something could come in handy, So it's good to have more tools and more options because you could always pull it out. Like I know whenever I was down a match and points, that's when all my flying stuff would start coming out.
Yeah.
I do flying arm bars, flying triangles,
Might as well.
whatever, because either I lose, by one advantage, or I'm going to lose by 10 points. It's the same thing.
By submission.
Or by submission. It's the same thing, right? So you might as well go out on your shield and try to...
I always... exactly. Go home on your shield. But you know what? I always tell my students this, the last minute of a fight when you're winning is the most dangerous minute of the fight. And it's crazy because sometimes you're winning and you see 10 seconds on the clock and you start relaxing a little bit. I'm like, that's the worst time to relax in a fight.
Yeah.
Is when you got 10 seconds left on the clock and you're winning. That's when your opponent's most dangerous. That's when he's going to jump the flying triangle, the flying armbar. He's going to go for that footlock he's never gone for before. And he's going to do crazy shit, and he's going to go 2,000% into it. He's not going to half-ass it. Because he's got 5 seconds on the clock. What does he have to lose? So, the advice to competitors is when you're winning, you got to be extra conservative. I'm not saying stalling, but don't mess around, man. If he's going for something, you got to respect everything he goes for.
You got to see it like it's a race, a foot race. Yeah. Do you slow down when the guy's within 10 feet of you? Like, absolutely not. You got to sprint to the finish. Yeah. And it's funny because you see it happen in racing all the time too. Like that, they'll start putting the hands up and then the guy, boom, smokes him from behind. Yeah. I'm like, man, what a lack of discipline. Just to finish it. You could do that same victory lap after you've crossed the finish line.
It's overconfidence. I've never raced before, but I've heard this. It might be bullshit. But it's almost like an advantage to be in second, close to the first place. Because the incentive for you to the incentive for the guy's first place is the finish line is, for whatever reason, is smaller than for the guy who's in second place who sees you a few feet in front of him.
I think it's also aerodynamic advantage because the guy in the front is breaking the wind.
Yes.
Right?
True.
So
and cycling, I know that's for sure. Yeah. That's why they stay in line and huge momentum.
They're like small advantages, but at that level, they add up,
I think the psychological of having someone right in front of you, you would break your, you'd go that extra push. I'm talking about the push. By the time you cross the finish line, you collapse on the ground because you can't even hold yourself up anymore.
I remember I had a buddy when I was doing cross country. I'm becoming retarded right now. But every run, the finishing sprint, he would throw up. Just from the pure exertion that he would put out.
I did that a lot.
Yeah, I'm like, man, this guy must really like running because I remember we would do it. Our coach would put us into it as a preseason conditioning
Yeah.
because it would roll into the wrestling season. So we would do it. Remember, like we were like the worst cross country runners ever. Like, and the coach seemed to know that, and he would do us. He would put us in sprints, not sprints. I'm sorry, stairs all the time. I'm like, this is not cross country training. Like, there's no reason to do stairs, like really. But we would do like 30-minute stair sessions. So it worked for wrestlers, you know. But this one kid, he was just a runner, man. Like every time throwing up, I was like, that's some dedication. Like he knows that every time he's gonna just hurl hard. But yeah, like you have to empty the tank, you know, even if you're in top. You know, I think for fighting, the visual should be like the guy's like 10 feet behind you if you're winning. Because that's what it is. Any one hit and fight's over.
Everything changes,
It's like even if you're winning 4 rounds and you're coasting to the 5th round, the guy is still just 10 feet behind you. He takes one step and throws a right hand and clocks you, you're done. Like, you don't have the same space where there's never a point where you're so far away from the guy that there's no chance you can win. There's always a chance in MMA or any striking art really that you can win, which is what makes it exciting.
It makes it it can be more of a gamble.
Yeah.
Especially more striking than grappling. In grappling, you have to make a series of mistakes to get caught.
Yeah.
Where striking takes one mistake.
Yeah.
That's one reason when I fought, I clinched right away. Oh, you have no hands. Actually, my hands weren't bad. I'm looking at striking where it's like 50-50. And I look like grappling, like I know if I grab this guy, I'm gonna finish him. It's like it's an easy choice to make.
Yeah, it's just being economical, really, and smart. I say, like, if we have the number 1 striker in the world versus the number 2, or let's say even the number 10 striker, they're both gonna get hit. Number 1 guy is gonna get hit a bunch of times. Yeah. You know, it's just that's what striking is about. It's about getting hit and returning, but you want to land the better shots, you know, countering it. But if you have like the number 1 grappler or the number 10 grappler, the number 1 grappler is gonna win. And he's not going to get hurt while doing it. You know what I mean? So, like, the advantages are much bigger.
You can afford to make mistakes on the ground, I feel like. You have to. You to get caught, heel hook and guillotine, probably the exceptions. There's some, get caught in something fast. But for the most part, you have to make a series of mistakes for you to tap me. It's not one. It's a sequence, right? Yeah. So, I think it's safer in that regard.
For sure.
Less of a gamble. But going back a little bit, just reminded me of something. And I love this story. But it might be apocryphal. I don't know if it's true. Someone told me the story. But like basically, Dan Gable once gave an interview, and he said something to the extent of, I think one of his daughters ran marathons or something, and he was very proud of her because she had done something that he had never experienced in wrestling, where she was so exhausted in the marathon, right? She had pushed herself so hard she couldn't stand up. She was like, she collapsed on the ground. She could, and I've seen that. I saw it on TV. I saw like a triathlete. She lost coordination of her legs, and she was collapsed, and she'd fall, and she'd get back up, and she'd fall again.
Oh, wow.
And she just wouldn't quit, she just kept, like, she's crawling now. She's trying to get back. And I look at that, and I go, that's pretty badass, man. Like, it's so cool. And then Dan Gable said something, and once again, don't quote me. I don't know if it's actually, but it's still a great story. And he goes, like, he was envious of his own daughter because no matter how hard he pushed himself in wrestling, he had never pushed himself to that point where he couldn't stand up anymore. Isn't that cool?
Like, for Dan Gable, that's a big endorsement.
I mean, I've heard Dan Gable used to like mow the lawn with like weights on his body.
Yeah, he was an
like
animal.
Insane.
Yeah, he's like a legend in wrestling because he had set that precedent where you have to be carried off the mat is the goal of training. Like you want to be that exhausted. I think in retrospect that was probably too hardcore. I think
it's unscientific. At this point in the 21st century, it's unscientific.
Yeah,
it's not. It doesn't. The data backs up rest as an important component of performance.
Yeah, and I think he was probably overtraining more than he should have.
It's still beautiful, though, isn't it?
It is still amazing, though. Yeah, because what it is shows the power of their will, right? Which is like we've talked about this before. You have to flex that every so often, right? You got to see how tough you are, and if you never, and training is the best place to do that because the consequences are less severe. Like I tell people, you don't want to prove you're super tough in a fight, especially every time you fight, because that's a muscle, not really a muscle, but those are strikes that you don't get back. I had listened to Joe Rogan and Firas Zahabi, and they had this thing where they were saying that essentially you have a punch ticket with the amount of hits that you can take over your career. And you don't want those hits to be adding up in training. Because they were talking about training smart. I see it the same way of fighting. I see some guys that they just go to brawl. Like, and they could win the fight easy on the ground, like you said, but like there's a pride thing. Oh, we're gonna brawl.
Yeah.
And like you're taking those extra shots that you're not gonna get back. You know what I mean? Like
Toughness is it's a thin line between being tough and stupid.
Yeah.
You know? You know what? Like, but I admire, like, going back to dengue. Like, I even though I think it's unscientific and counterproductive, I admire the will. So to me, it's such a fascinating topic. I remember that you guys. I'm sure you maybe heard the story of Paulo Miao when he broke a tooth in practice. You ever hear that story?
I think you've told me once before,
Yeah.
but
So
you can refresh the memory.
Okay. I mean, a lot of people just know this story, and I love that story. I think it was like 15, 16. So it would have been like 10 years ago. He, broke his tooth in practice, right? So he goes, puts it down, keeps rolling, right? And I might be missing some details, okay? So forgive me if I'm not telling the story, exactly how it happened, but the gist of it you'll get. And then he goes like this. He goes, keeps rolling, and then the dentist walks up to him after practice and goes, he was on the mats and goes like, hey man, come over to my office, I'll take care of you for free. Just come over and I'll fix your tooth for you. Paulie goes, oh, thank you so much. It's very nice of you. And a few seconds later he goes, oh, how many days do I have to take off? Up 3 days off. Like, I'm good. Right, he's still walking around without a tooth. Check him out. Like, he's missing a tooth. He won't take 3 days off. When he won ACB, he won 9 rounds with a broken foot. That was 3-minute rounds. He broke his foot in the first round.
Yeah.
Osvaldo Queixinho broke his foot with a estima lock. Broke his foot. Right. I mean, those are hard to tap. With the foot lock.
They're notorious.
But he actually broke his foot. He couldn't walk. He won 9 rounds with a broken foot, limping. He was limping on the mats.
That's ridiculous.
I walked up to Brawl. They go like, we're gonna fuck with this kid, because we knew how crazy he is, So we walked up to him like after tournament, like he's in the locker room changing, and I walked up to him, and we go, hey man, me and Brawl are gonna train tomorrow 7 a.m. Are you down? And he's like, yeah, sure. Where? Like, he wasn't joking. We were joking, but he wasn't joking. He was down to train the next morning 7 a.m. He just won, I don't even know how much money, won 9 rounds with a broken foot, and he was down to train 7 a.m. To me, that's a level of insanity. And I like training, don't get me wrong. I like pushing myself, but that right there is something I admire so much. It's borderline insane. Actually, it is insane.
I think it is insane.
It's past that line.
I think it's again, short-term thinking, right? I've found myself doing similar stuff, although not to that extent, where training injured or competing injured. I think it was like 2002, 2003. I had competed like in 40 or so matches in a span of like 6 months. Just taking any super fight I can get, any absolute division, can compete everywhere. I had popped knees, popped ankles, shoulders messed up, and I just like push through it. But I felt like I had to chase every opportunity that was presented. Like, someone offers it, okay, take it.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I'm like, man, if I keep taking these, there's gonna be nothing left of me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I gotta stop. Took like 3-4 months off, healed up. Okay, you know what? Those opportunities they'll be there. Sometimes you miss something and another comes back, but like there's a price to taking it that you might never recover from.
That's where a good coach comes in and tells you, hey man, like, you're actually doing more harm than good. But even if it's detrimental to your performance, I cannot stop myself from applauding the behavior, because we're living in a time where everyone wants to talk about being a badass. Everyone wants to be the big dick in the room. Everyone wants to be a badass. Everyone wants to, they want the reward, but are you willing to be missing a tooth through your best dating years, right? From your 16 to 26, you're missing a tooth because you don't care about the fact that women may find you less attractive. You look like, like some fucking redneck missing a tooth. Like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's just so much more worried about performance. He's so much more concerned with bettering himself. He will not take 3 days off.
Yeah.
And then they contrast that with like some of these guys take 3 months off in Hawaii after a fight, man. Like, even if you could be a UFC champion, I'm never going to admire you to the same degree that I admire Paulo Miao. But even though I wouldn't recommend that, and I wouldn't do it myself, I would have gotten my teeth fixed. I have a similar story though, not quite that extreme, but I have this dent on my chest. I did pectoris scavatum. I never bothered looking into it.
Yeah.
When I was like 16, 17, I just got into jiu-jitsu. My mom took me to a doctor. And the technology now has improved. It's a lot better. By the time, it was a more complicated procedure to fix it. It was plastic surgery, but you have to mess with your whole structural skeleton. I don't even know what they do, but you went to the doctor said he could fix it. And I go, okay, whatever, it didn't bother me that much. I guess it must be when I was younger because I got teased a lot. But when I was 16, I kind of didn't give a shit more. And then I asked him, so how much time off? He said, oh, about a year. I take a year off. And I'm like, I was already into jiu-jitsu. I'm like, that's way too long. You know, I mean, 3 days, yeah, I would have done that. But like 1 year, no way. But, you know, because I remember now, you know, recalling it, when I was 16, 17, jiu-jitsu already was way more important to me than how I looked.
Yeah.
Right. So now looking back, I'm very proud. There's a part of me that wish maybe I should have fixed it, you know, but there's a part of me I'm very proud of that because, you know, like, man, like I know what I prioritize in my life, you know, and I think a lot of people, when it comes to performance, they prioritize the wrong things, even though they talk about performance, they talk about reward and, you know, achieving. It all comes down to these decisions. How much does it mean to you? How much do you care? Because when it means that much to you, like Paul, I want to take 3 days off. He doesn't care. He's walking around without a tooth, right? That explains why he's a champion. Like when Dan Gable, like, you know, he does insane stuff like that. It explains why he's great. And you know, I'm not comparing myself to these guys, but yeah, I think there's like, it's like I admire that sort of resolution, determination to achieve.
Absolutely. I think everybody does, you know. Like in the case of the Miyaos and whatnot, they probably have a goal that's in the short term. So like you said, they're willing to sacrifice everything, body, limb, what have you, to achieve that. And the time span for it is finite. So whenever you have that, you have to be willing to sacrifice more for it, you know. Now what happens after, who knows, you know, like maybe his foot gets hobbled and he's got bad teeth or whatever the case is. So I guess you just have to be clear with what your long-term goals are in your life, you know. But for sure, anybody who does something of greatness has like I said, the touch of madness, you know. Like other people think you're crazy. They don't understand why you're so driven to do something.
Yeah.
But like I get people who write me and say like, oh, you know, I want to become a pro athlete, but I work a job. How do I do it? I'm like, there's no perfect time to get started with chasing a dream.
Yeah.
It's just now. It's like if you're not willing to risk something to get it, you're probably not cut out for it. Because anybody I've known that's done something amazing had to risk a lot. And
it's a lot. And the scary thing is there's no reward.
There's no reward.
You have a million things could happen along the way. And I think that when my dad wanted me to get a normal job and stop playing Karate Kid, quote unquote, I understand where he was coming from. Like, I don't think he's wrong.
Yeah.
If my daughter said something like, which to me would sound as outlandish as me training jiu-jitsu sounded to my father, I probably would have given her advice of like, yeah, just get a normal career. Like, don't shoot for the stars, you know. Like, but like, not everyone is going to be rewarded. So it's a long shot. But
it starts there, right? Because everybody essentially has to be willing to risk that. Yeah. I think the biggest problem with people who have, you know, these big ambitions, particularly in sports, is that they think that there is a perfect way of getting into it. Like, oh, okay, I'll have this money saved up so I don't have to worry about this, and then I have that. I'm like, dude, that never happens. Yeah. You know, like
it's like the tattoo fairy. Like, you keep dreaming about getting the tattoo. Well, I'm gonna get the tattoo. I'm gonna get the tattoo. It's like, yeah, you're waiting for the tattoo fairy to come along and tell you when's the perfect moment to get that tattoo. Versus, in fights, the same thing. It's like, you know, you're waiting for that perfect, ideal moment to get started or achieve your dreams. It's like, man, it's right now. Yeah. Every second that goes by, you're a second further away from your dream, man. We have a short life. Yeah. Short time on this earth. And
you don't know how much time you got either.
Live your dreams, man. Don't get sucked into the, you know, the doing what you don't love to do, because, you know, life is short, you know. Dave, I have to go. I have a bit of a case. I got to be somewhere. We're a little
no
late,
worries,
actually.
Yeah.
And so I have to cut a little bit short today, guys. That is entirely my fault. But hope you guys enjoy. I always enjoy our talks, man. Like, it's very organic with me and Dave. We start, like, we decide like about 30 seconds before the show, before we start recording, you know, what we're going to talk about. We thought about cross training between sports, and then boom, you know, we go into the rabbit holes. And yeah, I always enjoy these talks.
Yeah, man. Likewise. You know, like, we never know where we're gonna end up.
Yeah, all over the place for sure. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening, watching, and see you guys next time.